welcome to Education, Leadership, and Beyond, Surviving and Thriving. My name is Andrew Murata, host of the show and proud member of the Education Podcast Network, Voice Ed Radio Canada, or wherever you're taking in your podcasts. Appreciate you tuning in. Certainly appreciate our live audience, a number of people already on. Jump in the chat, say hello, let us know where you're watching from. Maybe it's down in Houston, Texas, where our guest is coming from today, or up here in the Northeast. Say hello. But I am excited. I read this book this past summer, and you know when you read a book and you're just like, yeah, that's it. Oh, I can identify with that. You hear a song, you know, this is it. Be the Unicorn, William Vanderbloemen. He helped me get the pronunciation right. I'm working on the spelling, William. And we're going to meet William today. He was kind enough to come on. He met with us. He met with the team here in Port Jervis this summer for our leadership retreat, and he was fantastic. And here's the book. So if you're getting ready for New Year's, you're getting ready for Christmas, I highly recommend Be the Unicorn, and we will chat about that. First, a quick word from our sponsor, IXL. If you're an educator, you've heard of IXL, personalized learning, direct instruction to those kids. Here is a word from IXL. Hey friends, Andrew Murata here, Surviving and Thriving. And I want to thank today's sponsor for the podcast, IXL. Discover the power of data-driven instruction in your school with IXL. It is the most widely used online learning and teaching platform K through 12. It gives you everything you need to maximize learning, from a comprehensive curriculum to meaningful school-wide data. And IXL's diagnostic is research proven to be a strong predictor of performance on standardized assessments, including NWEA, MAPS, STAR, iLearn, just to name a few. And the best part, everything I just mentioned is all integrated into one platform, so you can simplify your EdTech tools. Visit IXL.com to lead your school towards data-driven excellence today. The link is in the show notes. And again, I want to thank IXL for sponsoring Education, Leadership, and Beyond. All right. You can click on that link in the show notes, and that will bring you to IXL. But let's get started. We are talking Be the Unicorn today. And again, we have the author coming on today, William Vanderbloemen. And the opening concept is, which one is for you? Maybe it's multiple points of being a unicorn. The fast, the authentic, the agile, the solver, the anticipator, the prepared, the self-aware, the curious, the connected, the likable, the productive, the purpose-driven. William, you nailed it, right? Every chapter I read, I was like, oh yeah, that's it. Oh, I want to be that. Oh, I wish I'm doing that as a principal. Oh, I'm doing that as a dad, right? I identified with so many of them, and that's what made the book so relatable, regardless of your role. Again, a dad or a mom, a business leader. William is in pastoral ministry. William's in HR, hiring, right? This is how he got all those topics from thousands of interviews with people. But which one is most important for you? And I think, like anything, it's different for everybody. I identified with so many of them. Definitely check out the book, Be the Unicorn. We will put that in the show notes, the links there. But enough of me chatting. Let's bring in the guest, the star of the show here from Houston, Texas, live with us, William Vanderbloemen. William, welcome.
Good afternoon. Good to be with you, Andrew. Thanks for having me on. And more than anything, if people don't hear anything else during this podcast, thank you for pouring into the next generation of this country. Really appreciate what you're doing. There's no way to replicate the front lines you're doing work on every single day.
Appreciate that, William. I thought you were going to thank me for pronouncing your name correctly.
Well, there's that too. Yeah.
There's that too. Yeah. Well, I appreciate that, William, because these kids that you interview, that you've learned, they start out as our kids and then they go into the workforce, and you're meeting them in these hirings, in these searches there. So you know when we fail as educators, because maybe we're missing the mark with your hiring. So, William, before we dive into the book, tell us, introduce yourself, a little bit about you, and we'll get rolling here.
Yeah, the really short version is I started a business about 16 years ago, and I'm still trying to figure it out. But little longer version. I was a pastor for a long time a long time ago, and then left there to go into the business world. And while I was in the business world, worked in HR at a very large company. The CEO left, and it was a planned leave. There was nothing weird about it. And they hired this thing called a search firm to help them oversee how to find the next CEO. And they were done in 90 days. And I'd never seen anything so efficient. And I thought, could we build something to help other organizations that aren't as smart as the business world? So how do churches find pastors? How do schools find a headmaster? How do nonprofits find great leaders to take their cause forward? How do the sort of values-driven businesses of the world, the Chick-fil-A's and so forth, how do they find people that match the mission they're trying to accomplish? And that's what we set out to do. Adrian and I have 7 kids. We got married. We were a blended family. We have had 6 kids in a brand new house. And I saw this search firm go to work. And I came home and I said, Adrian, I think I'm supposed to quit my job and start something new. And it was the fall of 2008, which was just a brilliant time to quit your job. She should have, and we just gotten married, could barely afford the house we're in. And she should have said, go back to work. And instead she said, let's give it a try. And so she kind of gets the credit for starting the company. And now, 16 and a half years later, we're still figuring it out, but we've been very fortunate to work all over the world with some really cool teams.
Yeah. And where along that journey, William, you started noticing these characteristics? I read them in the pre-show there. When did that idea come to say, you know what, we got to get these out to people, because this is the magic. This is what we're looking for.
Yeah, well, so it's not that altruistic. It's a little more self-serving. I've been thinking for a long time. I wonder if we could figure out how to spot the best talent faster, because then that would make us better at our job, and it would free up our clients to get going with their job. Like, how do I learn how to spot these people faster? And the problem, Andrew, is we've been growing very, very quickly every year. And sometimes you don't get time to stop and work on the business when you're stuck in the business. And I know educators know how that is. You get caught up with school issues and kid issues, and you can't stop and say, why are we doing it this way, or what have you. One of the silver linings to the pandemic was it made us slow down. And we were able to drop back and say, okay, now we can do things like the research that we've been trying to put together for a long time to say, do these best of the best have anything in common? And you've met these people, Andrew. Everybody listening has met someone that within 5 minutes of meeting them, you want to, sign up for the newsletter, hire them, go to work for them, marry them, whatever.
Read their book. Read their book.
They're just kind of unicorns. And so we dropped back in 2020 and said, okay, can we figure out the best interviews we've ever done? And we did. There were 30,000 of them. We've done a whole lot more than that, but this was the best. And then we said, do those 30,000 have anything in common? And if so, what are those traits, so that I can spot talent faster and get done faster and let you get on with your work faster, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we did the research, and the answer was yes, unicorns do have things in common. But the list was nothing like I thought it would be. It was it was at very first, it was counterintuitive. And what we realized was it was none of that. Like, I would have thought, Andrew, like, it's all the quarterbacks and head cheerleaders, right? It's all the people who were smart enough to get into a great school, or did a really good job of being born, or have a great IQ, or generational wealth. They just got to be in the right rooms over time, and they became these unicorns. That's not it at all. What we found was there were 12 habits that these people practice, particularly focused around how they treat other human beings. And these 12 very distinct habits were very common among the unicorns and very uncommon among people like you and me and the rest of everybody, right? Although I think you're probably a unicorn. But once we realized they were habits, so I didn't want to name this 12 traits. A trait, I have a trait of thinning hair, right? We don't want to talk about that. You don't want to talk about as a Dutch guy, I'm not going to be winning the slam dunk contest for the NBA. Like, that's just not happening. That's that's a trait you're born with to some extent, and I don't have it. When we discovered these were habits, that's when we said, oh, now we don't have something to help us. We have something that could help a whole lot of people. We could help high school seniors figure out how to behave in a college interview and treat people differently in a way that would leave a mark in a good way, that would make it where your students are met on college visits and, oh my gosh, we've got to let them in. I don't care what their GPA is. They're amazing. When we realized we'd found habits that people could learn, we said, okay, now this needs to be a book. We need to get this in people's hands. And that's a long-winded answer. I guess you just never get rid of the preacher fully, but
amen to that.
There you go. There you go.
Well, it might have taken a while to get the answer, but you nailed it. I mean, the habits in the book, the way you wrote the book, you nailed it. Talk to me, William. And there's a lot of educators. If you're watching the show live, jump in the chat, say hello. But there's a lot of educators that do want to write a book out there, William. What was your process like? Were you going in the office on Sunday morning? Do you stay in after dinner? You're not cleaning up? You going to write? What was your process?
Yeah, well, I'm not very good at it, so you probably need to take anything I say with a grain of salt. Andrew, we've got 7 kids, so I have never been through labor and delivery personally. My wife's done that, right? But when I talk to her about what it's like, it makes me think of what it's like to write a book. You got this. I'm not kidding.
That'll get them going.
Thing inside you that's got to come out, and it's gonna really not be fun, but it'll come out eventually. That's kind of the way book writing is. And just a little pro tip or amateur tip, if it's from me, you won't make money writing books. Not going to happen. So if that's the goal, just go find something else to do. Find another way to monetize. There are lots of ways, but writing books, it's something like, I'll get the percentage wrong, but 85 or 90% of all books published don't sell 500 copies. And, it's a laborious thing. Now, if you have a message inside you that has to get out, that would help people, that would serve others, by all means do it. And I do think, this is my 7th book, I guess, something like that. And I've learned a style that works for me, right? I've got other people, the smartest people I know, when they're writing, they say writing takes creativity. I know which hours of the day I'm most creative. I have a job that allows some flexibility. I pop those hours into writing and I get it done. For me, that's early morning time. With 7 kids, early morning is the only time of day nobody wanted to talk to me. So that was when, you get up and you crank stuff out, and it's the whole, what do the Marines say? We got more done by 7 a.m. than most people do in a whole day. It's like that. And that, I wish I could, the 7 easy steps to writing a book, but there's not one. It's easier to get published than ever. I used a traditional publisher, but if you've got a book inside you that needs to get out, you can self-publish through Amazon. It's so much better than it used to be, and is increasingly accepted just as much as a traditional.
Yeah, that's very true there. The style of the book too, William, you tell stories. You give examples of celebrities that people know.
Yeah.
They can see. They know Jennifer Gardner. They know the owner of Under Armour. You tell these stories in there. And then you even, in the boxes, in the rectangles, you put in there why the hiring managers like the anticipator, why they like the curious, right? You just made it very relatable. It's an easy read. And again, I highly recommend it. You mentioned about speed, right? The hiring, how can we identify these traits faster? And that's the first trait, the fast, getting back to people, the replying of the emails, the doing of the work. And as someone who's got ADD, someone who's from New York City, William, I identified with that, right? I order the food. I want it when I'm done saying the last word. Like, that really registered with me. And I know you said you don't like the title of that so much. You almost wanted to change that title. But talk to me about the first chapter in the book, The Fast.
Yeah, sure. Sure. The first chapter of the book, so there are 12 chapters, 12 habits. It's pretty straightforward. And you said a lot of nice things. Another way to say it is you're not going to read this book and say, William's going to cure cancer. Like it's just not the target. Like I want this to be easily readable, but deeply applicable. And hopefully that's what we hit. And part of the reason we made the first chapter is it's the easiest habit to adopt or bad habit to break. So what do I mean by fast? It's not Speedy running the 40 at the NFL Combine. I would fail that all day long. So, publishers want short, one-word chapter titles. So the fast, right? If I were writing it more accurately, I would say the intentionally responsive. So what we found with unicorns is they are almost maniacal about getting back to people and doing it in a very intentional way, not like a chat bot or, these automated things you see on websites. And the other thing we found is the rest of us are really horrible at it. I mean, we're really bad at getting back. I have my mother's voice echoing in my head saying, write the thank you note, William. Like, we're just bad at it. And we looked at studies of how marketing and sales works together. Salespeople that ought to be making calls right away because their living depends on it, they're terrible at getting back to people. We looked at dating websites. They're terrible at getting back to prospects the dating website sent them. We're just horrible at getting back to people. And if you will get back to people quickly, you will be remembered as extraordinary. If you do it intentionally and quickly and in a way that is scalable and repeatable. And so, what does that mean? I'll tell you a story. I was thinking about going into search, and a friend of mine who works at the very largest search firm in the world and is one of their leaders, was talking to him, and I said, Bruce, I don't know if I'd be any good at this. Now, this was 2008, so you got to remember the iPhone had just come out. Okay, so we're still in like BlackBerry, Nokia world, if anybody's old enough to remember that. And I said, okay. He said, imagine this. Imagine you're on a one-on-one ski trip with your daughter. You're on the ski lift and you're having a really good talk. Your phone rings. What do you do? And I said, well, it depends on who it is. And he said, you're going to do fine. And I said, why? And he said, first of all, you had your phone with you, which wasn't something everybody did in 2008. Secondly, you looked to see who it was and you used some discernment about, do I need to get back to this person right now? Or do I need to shoot him a quick text saying I'll get back to you in an hour? Or, but some measure of discernment. And oh, by the way, I've got a daughter in the ski lift, so it needs to be important enough. But if people will just ask themselves those questions, how quickly can I get back to this person with some intention? You will get noticed. And I've stumbled into this when we started our company. I mean, I had 6 kids and barely afford a house. If you wrote me and said, would you help me find a fill in the blank? Guess how quickly I got back to you? Like immediate. And the more we did that when it was just me, the more people would say to me, I'd say, why'd you hire me? I said, you got back to me. It's like, is it that simple? I think it is. And that's why we made it the first of the 12 habits to explore. It's not the most important. It's not the most common. It's the easiest to adapt. And here's something I'd love. I wish somebody would have told me this earlier in my life. Momentum is the friend of personal change. If you can get some momentum in one little area, it will carry you to try another and another and another. It's like if you've ever heard of Dave Ramsey, the finance guy, get out of credit card debt and all this. Good friend, been a mentor, it's a client of ours. But he always says, if you've got 5 credit card debts, you pick the smallest balance first and knock it out. You'll feel momentum and then you'll move to that. Same with these habits. So we tried to pick what's the easiest one for people to learn, to adopt, to practice. And it's just getting back to people. So is it the most important? I don't know. Maybe it's the most important because it'll put you on the journey to learning all the other 11.
Yeah. I think it shows eagerness too. I think,
Yes.
as a principal, I could tell, wow, this person really wants the job. They're eager, and I like
Yes.
it. It gets your attention.
Well, and if there are educators listening, it's since I've written this book, once you write a book, you're then like an expert or whatever. So you get interviewed on things. And so I get asked all the time, why is Gen Z not getting hired? Because they're not. They're getting ignored in job interviews. And this is who you're raising. And Gen Alpha is coming right behind. Major study of employers done recently said that 60% of the Gen Zs that got hired got fired in the first year.
Wow.
And yeah, pretty crazy. So when you dig deep and you say, what are they not doing? It's pretty simple stuff. Get back to people, look people in the eye when you talk to them. I mean, it's incredibly 101 humanity. And I think they just haven't been taught. And that's on us, I guess, for raising it that way. But the more we can elevate, don't underestimate the simplicity of these lessons and how deeply they can affect your students or you as an educator or your school and your team, because they're just in rare supply right now, which is honestly kind of good news. That means if you just make these changes, you're going to stand out.
Yeah. William, have you been duped before?
Yes.
As a principal, like I hire this person, they're shining, and then I'm like, what? And I like, I got duped, I got fooled. Have you been duped before?
Yeah, nobody bats 1,000 in hiring. Nobody.
Yeah.
So if you made a bad hire, you're not alone. I'm right there with you. Hopefully, we've got thousands of repetitions. The misses go down. You get better and better at your craft. But a couple things that have fooled me. I've hired people I like. And I think that, hiring is kind of an adventure into the unknown, which is pretty scary to people. I mean, I've still got a kid that wants a nightlight on in the hallway. We don't like the unknown. We're afraid of death. Why? It's unknown, So I think when people meet someone that they feel some chemistry with, likability, I'd love to go have a beer with them or whatever, that I have translated wrongly before into they would be great at the job. And I've gotten duped. I've gotten duped when similar dynamic, when a friend has said to me, William, you should hire Andrew. He's awesome. He's amazing. Hire Andrew. And then I go tell my teammates, I know who we should hire because my friend just told me about somebody they know and they'll be perfect. Well, they may be really good, but a hire is like an organ transplant. And you can have a really healthy organ and a really healthy body. And if the tissues don't match, it's bad ending for everybody, right? So I've gotten duped by people I like, which basically just removes my fear of the unknown. I've gotten duped by overvaluing a friend's recommendation without doing the hard homework. And then the last one, which took me a while to learn, and I'm still learning. I'll tell you 5 more next week if you want. But the last one that really caught me by surprise, I mistook working in a high growth organization for being a high growth catalyst. So, I mean, I'm looking for a number 2 for a big organization that's growing like this. And I found somebody who was one layer below the C-suite in a much larger organization that had grown really fast, had a really good reputation for grow. I'm like, oh man, this guy can scale. He'll be awesome. He'll be great. His boss said he'd be great. The client's mentor said he'd be great. Everybody thought this would be great. And he got in there, he couldn't do anything. And what I realized is if you're in a large, fast-growing organization, it's very hard to trace who is causing that growth or that wonderment that's going on at a really great school. Just because they're teaching at a school that's got a fabulous reputation doesn't mean they can bring that with them to your place. They might. You just have to explore it really carefully. So people I've liked, people that I've gotten a name dropped and I've overvalued that, and mistaking being on staff at a really great place with being the catalyst for making a great place.
Great answer there, William. That's tremendous. I can imagine a lot of educators or principals, shaking their heads here. Todd Whitaker wrote a number of education books. He's terrific as a school leader. He shared with me once, he asked the question, William, rank William 1 out of 100 out of all your employees. Rank him. What number would you give? Right. So now the person says, William's 8 out of 100. Wow, that's pretty good. Todd's follow-up question is, well, why isn't he number 1? And I started using that because you get duped, like you said, by these recommendations of people you trust.
Yeah.
So I had to learn to ask better questions.
Yes.
In that, yeah. So that leads me to my next question. What's a question that you'll ask in a reference check? Because the person's giving you they're giving you their best friends,
Yeah. No, I tell candidates, I don't want to talk to your mother. I want to talk to your mother-in-law.
Ooh.
You know what I mean? Like, you need to give me some real references. And if you don't give me real references, I'm gonna go find them, because you can dig secondarily. It's not hard. There's enough social media, LinkedIn connections, et cetera, to do that. But at the end of the day, anybody who agrees to do a reference call, and some of this is because the way the law is now about whether you can say anything about what they did while they worked here, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's very hard to get an honest reference call. So really, I feel like I've had to do most of my homework before I get to the reference call. Mm. And then when I get to the reference call, what I'll say is, Andrew, I think you and I both know, if you're calling me for a reference, I think you and I both know that I'm probably going to hire this guy. I'm calling you for a reference on him. And rather than telling me, whether or not to hire him or what he does well, tell me how to set up my staff and what we do so that this person has the best first 6 months ever. Mm. And it's really interesting what people will tell you. They'll say things like, "Oh my gosh, that is so, I want to come work for you. You want to set up something for him? That's awesome." If you really want to do well, make sure you explain the details, because William doesn't like details and he doesn't do details, very well. If you explain them, he'll get it. Well, now I've learned something, right? And it wasn't just a fluffy reference call. And I might learn some great things about onboarding, because sometimes, it's a two-way street. Sometimes you get a great person and the manager doesn't do a good job of onboarding, or they're not patient and things don't work out. So I think what I'm learning in reference calls is to do my homework beforehand, and then approach the reference call with a, "Hey man, this is probably going to happen. So what should we know that would help us make it the best hire ever?"
Great answer again. I love the comparison to an organ donation. It's got to be the right match.
That's right, on both sides.
Yeah. Wow. Great stuff, William. William, you mentioned your pastoral ministry. You're certainly your faith, but as a pastor, you speak a lot. As a principal, as a school leader, you speak a lot.
Yes.
What are some tips you have for speaking? Obviously, I can tell you're a good storyteller. You're certainly a good writer. You downplayed it a lot, but what advice, what tips would you have for public speaking?
Yeah, I think I'm still figuring that out, man. I mean, because as a pastor, you've got somewhat of a captive audience. Like, I'm going to speak tomorrow to a large nonprofit conference, people that run nonprofits. So I've spent time, I've got a basic idea. We're going to talk about unicorn habits, but they're two big issues in nonprofits are fundraising and volunteer recruiting and retention. That's the ball game. If you can do volunteers and fundraising, you're good. So I'm trying to ask myself, what's keeping these people up at night? And how can I offer something that helps solve that pain point? And that sounds really basic, but I'm trying to get inside the head of the people that I'm going to be speaking to. What kind of car do they drive? What they have for breakfast? What's keeping them up at night? Are they bummed because the Jets are terrible or because the Giants are terrible? I don't know. It could be either one this year, Right. So, like, what is because people will respond when you speak to their pain. They don't want to just run through a brick wall and get motivated. That's great if you can do that, but that's like a sugar high. The real high is when you can connect with them about a pain point they have. And if you can do it honestly, if you can open your talk with a time when you were experiencing a pain that they also experienced, well, then that's I remember when I was running a church and fall came and we had to have more volunteers for the children's ministry than ever. And I didn't know what to do. You know what I'm talking about? And then everybody in the room, hopefully tomorrow, will say, "Yes, we know what you're talking." And now we've got a connection. So, those are the things I'm learning. I also think you probably got about 60 seconds to connect with the audience. So if I might give you just one little hack, don't walk out and say what your name is. Don't walk out and say what you're going to talk about today. Don't give the three things. Don't tell them what you're going to say and then say it and then tell them what you said. That's old. It's dated. It's a pre-TikTok thing. You need to walk out there and just start talking.
Yes.
And please, for all that is good in the world, do not say good morning. Oh, let's try again. Good morning. I mean, so that's
That
sorry.
wasn't enthusiastic. Can you say it again?
Yeah, take it or leave it. But that's my advice.
Yeah, that's good advice there. And just listening to you there, right? You're diving into the habits of the book there, right? You're being a solver. Number 4, you're connected. Number 9, you're connecting with the audience. So I could see the vibes of the book in the talk there. So good luck.
Thanks.
Yeah. William, I'm a sports guy. I like sports, and they're always making all-star teams. They're always making the top 100 players, and they're always making you're starting 5, the Mount Rushmore. Well, I'm only giving you 3 slots. You got 12 unicorn, but now this is the Mount Rushmore. If you're begging for 4, I'll give it to you, but I want 3 of your top points from Be the Unicorn.
I'm gonna give you 1.
Oh man.
Okay. It's the hardest one. It's the rarest one. It's the one the unicorns say they need to do more work on. But if you can get this one, everything else works. And I'll tell you why. Self-awareness. There are very, very few people I encounter who have self-awareness. I need more of it. I'm trying to learn. But to really answer the question, what are the 3 most important habits? Well, I need to drop back and say, what do I do for a living? I need to have some self-awareness. Because if I am the controller or the CFO for a big school, and I need to be making sure we all don't go to jail and that the money's in the right spot, like I need to be prepared. I need to be, drilling down. I need to be a solver, right? If I'm in sales, if I'm in enrollment for a school that's failing right now, you need to really put the sales on. I need to be fast. So to me, if you can grow in self-awareness, you'll figure out what the 2 or 3 are that will help you get to the next stage in whatever career you're in. Here's the thing though. We surveyed all 30,000 unicorns. We asked them to force rank. What are you best at? What are you worst at? There was no clear winner for best. There was no clear middle of the pack. No, the votes were all over the place except for one, and that was in dead last place by a long margin, was self-awareness. All these people who are better than the rest of us at self-awareness are like, I got to get better at this. All right. So now forget that survey. We surveyed 250,000 random people, you, me, everyday person. 91% of them, 91% of the population says they are better than average at self-awareness. Now, I'm not like a math major, but I'm pretty sure that there's not a group on the planet where 91% of the group is better than average. I mean, I think it's like 50 or above average, 50 or below. So you see what's going on here. Self-awareness is a place that people say, oh, I got that. I don't need any more of that. But the real experts at it are saying, I got to get better at it. And I'll give you one real-time example to show that you have a blind spot. Do you remember the first time you heard your voice recorded?
I do. It was my teaching lesson when I first started teaching.
Yeah, and you go, who is that jerk? I don't sound like that. Put me on.
Is that accent for real?
Exactly. That is the blind spot. We think we sound one way to the world. We don't. And it's on us to figure out how we sound and how we're coming across and where we can improve and where we can't. If you'll focus on self-awareness, and there's some clear takeaways and case studies and such in the book, but if you get that one down, the rest of them, it's like in an arch in old antiquity, the keystone was in the middle. You pull that one out, everything else falls. You put that one in place, you can build a whole arch.
Wow. I just want to repeat that. You surveyed the unicorns, and out of 30,000 unicorns, that was last.
Dead last.
Yet 250,000 people, 90% of them said they were better than average of being self-aware.
Yeah.
Wow. That is quite telling.
Isn't it? I think maybe we don't want self-awareness because we're not perfect. And when you really look in the mirror, it's like these actors and actresses that can't stand the 4K cameras because it shows all the spots in their skin. It's like when you really get a really good look at yourself, like, whoa, hey.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. William, these are great points. I really appreciate the time. Got to give it a shout out to my friend Matt Hodge watching from Alabama. If you're watching live, please jump in and say hello. William, anything else you wanted to share that we didn't talk about?
No, just that, read the book, don't read the book. But what would happen if you could turn your classroom into a bunch of people that the whole world said, I want to hire them. I want to sign up for the newsletter. I want to be a part of their world. I want to do life with them. I mean, you guys and gals who are listening and watching now or on tape later, you hold the future of our country in your hands. And if there's any way that this research can help you prepare them, I think it'll help in any profession they go in. Give it to them, because these habits are rare right now. They're going to get more rare as the next generations come up, and you can train up your students to be like, no, you're really going to stand out. You're really going to get in your college of first choice. You're really going to be the first to go to college in your family. You're really going to make a difference. Just do these things. That's my hope for you guys as educators. And I can't thank you enough for being on the front lines of maybe the most important work we do.
Amen to that. This is William Vanderbloemen, everyone, the author of Be the Unicorn. William, great stuff here. Appreciate it. Let's get to rapid fire, William. These are quick things here. I know you got to prep for your talk tomorrow. Do you got to travel, or are you staying close to home?
Actually, here in Houston.
Perfect. So, you got a home game.
Yeah, home game. That's right.
Those are nice. Good. You get home and do your chores. All right, here we go, William. These are quick things. First one pops in your head. Last book you read.
The Anxious Generation.
Yeah.
And I would recommend that to educators. Yeah.
Last movie you saw.
Yeah, so that's going to be Tombstone. I was on a flight and I got sucked in.
I'm another screen watcher on the plane. Last concert you went to.
Kenny Chesney.
Oh my God. You talk about energy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Love it. Down in Houston? Did you go in Houston?
Yeah.
Okay. Favorite dish?
Favorite dish? The last one I ate. I love food.
Oh, yeah. Favorite place to travel?
Home.
Nice. Karaoke song?
Wow. Nothing my Gen Z kids listen to. Probably like a James Taylor or something like that. I'm old.
You're singing along in the mornings. I can hear you. William is a graduate. He's a Demon Deacon. Wake Forest is fill in the blank.
Really important for future generations, because a liberal arts degree is going to be more valuable than ever as AI takes over a lot of tech jobs.
Nice plug for Wake Forest. There you go. He lives in Texas now. Texas is fill in the blank.
Home. Best country on earth.
If you weren't in your field you're doing now, what area of work would you be in?
Probably some kind of helping people get connected to the place they ought to be or the people they ought to know. I love connecting friends. Always have.
Yeah, that's the number 9, The Connected. And your next book, we spoke off air, is about helping people find that place they need to go. What the name of the next book, William, coming out next year?
Oh, you know what? Send me your suggestions. That's like the last part of labor and delivery is naming the kid, right? So, basically we're doing any book I've written is a byproduct of research we've done. And so we're doing a ton of research right now on, is there a way to find out what work I'm wired to do? My personality, my preferences, where I gain energy. Are there fields that I'm better suited for than others? So that you can just not name your job when you're 12 years old, but kind of get an idea of where to go. And now that we've done career counseling with 6 of our 7, that's given some real-time experience, plus all these people we've placed over the years and tracked how they've done their careers. So it's going to be really interesting. And I think, I don't know which one's first, the unicorn or this next book, but if you can figure out what you're wired to do and then how to behave once you're there, you're going to do really good. Pretty
good combination.
Hope so.
Yeah, good stuff. A recent victory for you?
Probably putting our freshman in college in her dorm room. And, she's doing great, but teenage years are bumpy. And when you get to a good milestone, it's like, yeah, this is good.
It must be funny for you, and I know you're being very humble, but being an expert in your field, right? And your kids, my kids argue with me all the time. I'm telling them to do these things. They argue with me, but now they probably go to college and be like, Dad, the professor told me how important it is to get back to people.
Well, it's the old, was it Mark Twain that said, when I was 18, my father was the dumbest man I'd ever met. And by the time I was 21, I couldn't believe how much he'd learned in 3 years.
Good stuff there. Well, congratulations there. You have a number in college right now. How many total in college?
2 in college, 4 fully launched, and then 1 freshman in high school at home.
Tuitions, baby, tuitions.
Yeah.
At 8 a.m. on Saturday morning, I feel fill in the blank.
Like having breakfast. I do intermittent fasting just as a thing, except on the weekends. So Saturday's always fun to get up and have a good breakfast with the family.
Nice. So what time do you start during the week?
Noon, whatever, 16 hours from when we had dinner.
Okay. But on the weekends, you break fast.
On the weekends, I'll have breakfast.
I like it. Number 8 is The Curious. I love that one also. What's one thing William Vanderbloemen is curious about?
I'll tell you what I'm trying to figure out. I'm trying to figure out how to ask better questions at work. So, I'm getting to a place, I'm 54. So theoretically, I've got runway left and I've got a lot of time, but I do start thinking about how do I get this next generation ready to lead this thing? And I think rather than telling them what to do, I need to ask them questions that help them figure out what to do. So I'm spending a lot of time studying what are the great question askers that are out there and how do I learn from them and start to ask questions that create critical thinking rather than just answering the question for people. Great answer.
Great answer. Is there something about William Vanderbloemen that people do not know about?
We're not going to go there. I mean, unless you watch old episodes of Cops or something like that. Like
William, the company is named in your name here. Is that the best way for people to get in touch with you?
It is. I think I've told you this before, Andrew, but we only named the thing that because the search engine people said, William, your last name is so messed up. People can misspell it in Google however they want and they'll get there. And we have a website, vanderbloemen.com. I think there's something like 4,000 free resources there for how to build and run and keep a team. Some of it may work for you, some of it may not, but have at it. Hope it helps you.
Yeah. And William models what he talks about. I reached out to the company to see about William coming to our retreat. He did it. He signed the books for us here. So you want William to speak at your leadership retreat. He was fantastic. Here's the book.
You know what I need to do, Andrew? I need to send you. We had so many teams like yours go through this that you guys inspired us. And we actually wrote a workbook. It came out last month.
Nice.
So teams can go through it together. You can do it individually too, but just gives you a way to. Sometimes a discussion book helps if you're doing it as a group.
Yeah. And we took your survey. We did the online survey. I forgot what you call assessment. And we put our results up there and who was what. And it goes through and helps you figure out which one is best for you there. So cool. I like that. Great idea. William, how about a quote? You said a ton of great things today. I love quotes. How about you end this with a quote?
Wow. Right now is the beginning of the rest of your life. Go live it.
Yeah, man. Awesome, William. This was great. Friends, you can check him out. His website, vanderbloemen.com. Hiring, great resources there. William, good luck in the talk tomorrow. Best to you and your family.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it so much. Thanks, Andrew. And thanks, everybody, for tuning in.
All right, everyone. William, stay on the line a second. We're going to sign off on education, leadership, and beyond. A big shout out to William and his group there. William, thanks, my friend.
Thank you.